Okay, so I want to go over like 3 habitat features, and I'm not crazy about habitat features because I just told you don't hone in on only features like feed and giant basins. But these are kind of 3 things that I'm looking for when I am e-scouting mule deer, so to speak. So kind of, we alluded to this a little bit, is this pockets versus basins. I think it's really sexy to look at big basins and say like, oh man, that's going to be great, right? Like this is the perfect, it's north facing, it's got this timber pocket, it has all the feed in it, but everyone's going to see that. And generally speaking, those are going to get hit the hardest. So I like to look for little basins. And, I actually find this it's funny because as we talk about mountains versus prairies, that middle ground where, there's not a lot of sexy ground. It's just a lot of hilly, breaky country. That's where it gets overlooked because on a map, it's not the destination, but it's also not the flats, right? So everyone tends to like veer one way or the other. So I like to find just pockets, and specifically, the less you can glass or the harder it is to glass, the better in my opinion, because everyone out here, as they get better at e-scouting, is looking for that one glassing point where you can see a bunch of country, which is fine, but you sacrifice losing the important parts of what you see. So when I have a glassing spot where I can see a whole bunch of country, that's really good for figuring out if deer are in the area, but I need to hone in and start glassing different channels. And that kind of goes into the escape routes and travel routes and things like that. I like to also set up where I can glass that open cover. So in this, second key thing I want to say I'm looking for is open cover. And that may sound confusing, but back in my old days when I was a blacktail hunter as a kid, I found one of the first bucks I killed was in this reprod patch. And this reprod patch was perfect because the deer could be down in there and they would rut in this reprod patch. But if I was up on the hill, I could see down in there. And the deer all thought they were safe. They couldn't see laterally. So I could see down in there. And I picked that up. I was like, that spot's perfect. I ended up killing a couple bucks there, but then I had a lot of success once I found that style of reprod patch where I knew there was deer and I could basically replicate this on different parts of the mountain. I'd kill bucks in a place just like that. And then I rinsed and repeat this to rifle elk hunting. It was like, once I found that timber where those elk felt secure, they could move around throughout the day and I could shoot down in there because I could see them from above. And the same is true when you look at mule deer country, right? You're trying to find that break when that high mountain sage and that open kind of juniper country where you can see down in there, where those deer, they'll move out of those open sage flats and they move up into that stuff where they think they're kind of secure, but you can see down in there. And that's really powerful. For rifle hunting specifically, that makes a really difficult archery in early season. But man, for rifle, like finding that timber or that cover that they think they're secure in, but you can see from above, that is a huge feature that I look for in a lot of places. And then the last feature I really like to establish while I'm e-scouting is travel routes. So as I look at say any feed spot, say it's a nice sage flat or something like that, I want to play out in my head, like, okay, what do I think that the deer are going to be? How are they going back to cover, right? And this gets into that. I'm just assuming I'm hunting pressured deer right out the gate. And what do pressured deer do? They don't walk across the wide open in the daylight, right? They take those little drainages. They take the bottom of coulees. And oftentimes when you set up at the top of the hill, you can't see in the coulees. You're looking at a lot of area, but you can't see those travel routes, right? You can't see the nooks and crannies. And so going back to I like to establish those because it's easy to overlook those. And they're a complete guess for the most part, maybe an educated guess at best, but identifying those for me is really important just as a reminder. So when I go back, and I'll kind of dive in that when you get to e-scouting, but those are the 3 things I like.